Jesus. How can you see, man, with all that rubble? Wow. Oh, they see him right there in the rubble. Unbelievable. Хайда.
Все, продвигаемся.
The men who are just stepping out from cover here are fighters of the Ukrainian Tsunami Regiment of the Lyud Brigade, a unit which is primarily made up of Ukrainian police officers. Their task is to push into the center of Klishchivka in Ukraine's Donetsk region to attack and clear out Russian positions. Suspected Russian concealment spots are suppressed as the men begin their advance.
Wow. Yeah, there's a guy right
hiding
there.
in the thicket are tricky, but a much bigger problem are solid structures like houses, which provide hard cover and give the Russians an advantage.
Контроль! Воги туди всипте!
This is where grenades come in handy.
Grenade launchers.
Розсредоточитесь, воздух!
The assault is temporarily disrupted as drones suddenly appear overhead. Now the men must move quickly and take cover. Fortunately, a small open but roofed brick hut is available.
Скид, скид, осторожно!
Unfortunately, those roofs in those little buildings are just not enough for a drone. I mean, it's better than nothing, but it's just not enough.
На зв'язку. Продвинулись на один дом. Осматриваемся. Був скид, все good.
Everything good.
The drones seem to have little effect, and the men jumped right back into the fight. A Russian was suspected to be inside the building and was quickly engaged from close range through the window. One of the number one hiding spots on the zero line are
В
basements.
подвалі наших нема? От в нас підвал. Жастик. Шляпу кидай.
The guy's nickname is Joystick.
Готов?
While basements provide relatively good cover from drones and artillery, they can also turn into traps for those hiding inside.
Ще одна є. Чув?
Once the entrance and fatal funnel are secured, grenades can be used to make life very difficult for the men inside.
Чекай!
Very difficult.
Давай, пробуємо заходити.
And so the Ukrainians blast their way deeper into the basement as they increase the pressure on the Russians. Nevertheless, unforeseen complications can always arise.
How come the guns sound like they're suppressed a little bit? Do they have silencers on them, or is it just from the audio of the GoPro that they're using? It just seems a very like suppressed, not like an actual, sound from a rifle when you go to like a shooting range. It's very loud. These guns are like quieter.
Therefore, the Ukrainians would prefer if the Russians simply surrendered.
Ще одну туди, ще одну. Все.
But most of the time, the Russians don't surrender.
Yeah, because you know what they say, Russians don't surrender. That's like the joke in Russia, like they say, so Russia don't surrender, right? That's like the joke that they brought with them from like World War II when they fought the Nazis and stuff, that the Russians never surrender, the Soviets never surrender. But in reality, let's be honest here.
Москва, амінь.
The men continue their mission, as there are many more Russian positions that must be cleared one by one in close combat.
Тримаємо ліво, дивіться, сектора розберіть.
As they continue to advance, Russian artillery begins to zero in on them.
Ідем! У вас що тут? Накидай, може, в ту хуйню. В дом то.
Будинок.
Давай, я тебе покажу.
Suddenly, this happens.
Holy
The men are
crap.
narrowly missed by an artillery shell.
Wow.
The men are narrowly missed by an artillery shell.
Gotta get out of there.
Since the fire is sporadic and not densely concentrated, the men decide to shift their position slightly to stay ahead of the Russian artillery, which will now have to readjust its aim in order to target the Ukrainians effectively again. While this close call definitely reminds us of the huge role that luck or chance can play on the battlefield, it also highlights once again the problems that occupied solid structures like houses can pose for infantry operating out in the open without tank or other heavy support. It can easily happen that they temporarily delay or even fix an advancing element out in the open, making it an easy target for indirect fires, drones, or other enemy relief elements.
Артас тут. Де чіп? Що чіп? Ідемо вперед.
That sounds bad.
Я хуй його знаю, де мої визві стафа, хай йдуть сюди. Стафа сюди визвати, б***. Приховайся, Коль.
Huh.
Так, Шева за мною. Плюс, куди? В посадочку. В посадку. Жах теж. Плюс. 3-4, пішли.
These nicknames for all these guys are kind of interesting, isn't it?
After a brief consolidation, the men resumed the assault.
Бігом, бігом, бігом. Контрольте, контрольте, все. 12 контроль. Вася! Давай сюди!
In the background, the impacts of cluster munitions can be heard.
That's what it was, the cluster
Далі йдемо,
munitions.
йдемо далі.
However, it's unclear whether they were fired by the Russian or the Ukrainian side.
God.
One thing is certain though, the men must not be distracted from their mission, and so the battle goes on.
Oh my god, bro, that was so close. Look how close he's shooting next to him. You gotta have trust in your boys, man.
Distracted from their
Look at this.
mission, and so the battle goes on.
Look where the guy is. Jeez.
They take the approach through the ragged remains of a tree line, which offers only sparse cover and concealment. But as the saying goes, any cover is better than no cover at all. Sun Tzu, probably. The Ukrainian advance is once again, who would have thought, slowed down by resistance coming from another house.
Потихенько. Прикрий. Тримай, прикрий.
This time, the men make use of
Ooh.
a disposable shoulder-fired rocket launcher.
What is that one? Does anybody know what's the name of that one? Is that that's a old Russian or Ukrainian disposable rocket system. I remember when I was a kid, one of my family members had one of these.
Постріл!
The rocket, however,
You can see
behaved
it.
more like a dart than a high explosive or thermobaric warhead. This can be explained by two possibilities. Either the rocket malfunctioned, or the launcher simply was equipped with an armor-piercing warhead.
I think it malfunctioned, to be honest with you. That thing looked pretty old.
The Russian position, therefore, was still intact.
На 12 пекач, осторожно!
On top of that, it appeared to be a machine gun position.
Проходим, проходим потихеньку, Вася, проходим. Став! Став! Де став?
Uh-oh, they're losing one of their members. Oh, there he
Став
is.
сюди! Шляпа!
In an attempt to prevent a possible flanking maneuver by the Russians, the Ukrainians throw a grenade.
Крийте посадку!
This shows why an enemy machine gun position is such a frightening opponent. Thanks to the penetration power and high rate of fire that machine guns offer, a single gunner in a protected position with a good field of fire, meaning clear visibility on the opposing element, can easily suppress and pin down an entire squad, if not a whole platoon, making them extremely vulnerable to flanking maneuvers or other countermeasures such as drones or artillery.
That's crazy.
Although there is no high rate of incoming machine gun fire audible in the video, its mere presence forces the Ukrainians to adopt a more defensive stance and take evasive action. That gives the Russians an opportunity, and they now seem to be the ones using grenades, even though the situation remains unclear.
Що це, граната?
The situation is becoming increasingly unfavorable for the Ukrainians and the assault is losing momentum. A dangerous situation that forces the men to choose, let the attack stall and be overwhelmed by the Russians through passivity or withdraw and flee. However, there is also a third option. The men decide to go back on the offensive to regain the momentum.
Oh! Did he just get hit? Oh my god, it looks like he got hit.
The leader splits his element and instructs the men to advance in pairs, bounding forward after assigning them separate targets.
Закидуємо гранатами і бистро в хату! Хату закидати гранатами, бля! Двоє йдуть, один 12 контролює, другий дом!
It's a little sketchy.
Мені явно не доплачують за цю роботу.
Oh, my friend, none of that is worth all the money in the world, but somebody has to do it.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and I hope this video goes viral so that someone with the authority to do so sees it and gives these men a pay raise. Normally, this would be the perfect place to mention any fundraisers for this unit, but it seems that currently there are none. As soon as that changes, I'll add them to the description box. To give their revitalized push some extra punch, another rocket launcher is prepared.
Now that rocket launcher looks pretty, that's like Swedish or something. Maybe.
To give their revitalized push some extra punch, another rocket launcher is prepared.
Ану, чекай! Вася, пригнись!
This guy's cussing is so funny.
Заряджайся!
However, the rocket lands short this time.
Проходимо далі, давайте далі.
Gotta aim a little higher.
Давайте, пацани, треба.
The failed rocket launch doesn't stop the men from advancing, even if a bit of pressure from the squad leader is needed. And so, the men continue to slowly push forward with fire.
Що проходимо вперед, трошки, хлопці.
That's so sketchy. Look at all those trees, man. You're gonna like fall on one and get stabbed.
The Russians, however, are in the more advantageous position, and the assault progresses only slowly. Due to a lack of anti-structure weapons, the Russians have to be suppressed with small arms fire, while the Ukrainians must bound from cover to cover to avoid exposing themselves to Russian fire.
They need a drone
And
support.
the available cover is far from ideal. Just a few war-scarred trees and small craters in the ground, nothing that could fully cover or conceal a soldier's profile.
Yikes.
And so, the men continue to advance.
Чіп, осторожно!
Once again, the Russians are called upon to surrender. The demand is not complied with, but the Ukrainians are now within grenade range. So a grenade is used, allowing the fighter to gain a few more
Oh,
meters
there's a guy on the
forward.
left.
Пацани, економте БК!
High-intensity battles like this one burn through ammunition quickly,
Yeah.
especially in situations where a high volume of fire is required to establish fire superiority and suppress the enemy. And
That's one thing I've noticed about all these videos that I watch is that how much of ammo these guys go through pretty fast just to advance like 100 meters or 200 meters. I mean, they go through like mags and mags, dude, just to get like a few guys or even a couple dudes.
in order to advance. Since the amount of ammunition an individual attacker can carry is limited compared to defenders in static, prepared positions, the Ukrainians now have to carefully manage their resources, what is further complicating their situation. Once again, the decision is made to face this situation with boldness.
Плюс! Обходимо, пацани!
The Ukrainians decide to flank the Russians, but not unilaterally in the classic sense of an assault and support element, but with a pincer maneuver from both sides. An attempt to quickly overwhelm the Russians.
Давай, крию!
A tactic that, although risky, makes perfect sense given their situation and the dwindling supply of ammunition.
I think doesn't matter which way you do it, it's all risky.
Чіп, осторожно, бля!
The men are, after all, already at risk of getting bogged down by a slowed-down fire and maneuver
Eesh.
process and could soon ending up dry on ammunition.
That
They
guy's
try to counter this fact with speed and tempo, attempting once again to rapidly build pressure fast to seize the momentum one more time
that guy's just sitting on the road in the open. I think it's a little too sketchy.
to overrun the enemy and crush him from both sides.
Yeah,
Better a
get
good plan
back,
today
dude.
than a perfect plan tomorrow, I guess. And indeed, it really brings new momentum to the situation. Suddenly, everything happens very fast. The Russians react to the maneuver and attempt to maneuver themselves in response. For a brief second, one of the Russians becomes visible while changing position.
Oh yeah, you can see him. Holy crap.
The Ukrainian quickly
Did you guys see that?
positions themselves in response. For a brief second,
there.
one of the Russians becomes visible while changing position.
Wow.
The Ukrainian quickly opens fire, but the amount of time the Russian stayed in his line of sight was simply too short,
Yeah.
and it seems he missed.
Сектора, підтягуйтесь сюди! Сюди підтягуйтесь!
Nevertheless, this seems to have given the situation a new dynamic. It's possible that the Russian was the previously mentioned PKM gunner, who tried to seize the initiative and position himself so that the Ukrainian element flanking on the right would move into his line of fire during the maneuver.
Oof.
To put it simply, while they were about to flank, he wanted to outflank them himself to get an angle on them. In the meantime, the area came under another type of indirect fire.
Бугун, бугун, повтори АГС, прямо в ціль, повторюю, прямо в ціль.
Judging by the abbreviation AGS, it appeared to be an AGS-30 automatic grenade launcher,
Oh my
which
God.
can indeed be used doctrinally and in practice as an indirect fire weapon. Also, since the sounds of the impacts were close but definitely
That's crazy that there's still rules in the war, even though it's like a war. To me, it's like a little gray area as far as like, oh yeah, it's not, you can't use this weapon in the war. I'm like, it's a war. I don't understand.
not that close, and the Ukrainian confirmed the hits over the radio. It strongly appears that this was outgoing Ukrainian AGS fire on the moving Russian element. Once again, the men are encouraged to abandon their passivity.
Давайте, пацани, чим довше сидимо, тим хуйня більше. Йдем сюди! Обходьте, панчохою! Давайте! Будете жить!
Another grenade is thrown, and eventually the men move forward. On their way, they pass an entire Russian fire team consisting of 4 men who were KIA. It's possible that the machine gunner whose movement we saw earlier was among them, and that the men were taken out by fire from the grenade launcher, but that remains speculation.
Huh.
Давайте по правій питаємося. Да. Чую на прийомі, ми підходимо.
It seems that through the successful flanking maneuver, supported by precise AGS fire, the men have regained the upper hand in the situation and have once again secured the freedom to maneuver largely unimpeded. The element crosses a relatively large open area
This
in a
is
surprisingly short
disgusting.
amount of time compared to the painstaking, meter-by-meter advance we saw at the previous Russian strongpoint. The men passed by the shot-up remains of an abandoned washing machine as they approached the last pocket of Russian resistance.
Плюс, прийняв, ми і заходимо.
The position consists of the remains of a destroyed house lying in the middle of a
З
pile of
контролем,
rubble.
пацани, з контролем, блядь. З контролем! Чіпс, контроль! Не розслабляйтесь, блядь.
Don't relax, man.
Чекай, дай гранату йобну туди.
Even though it seems that the Russian resistance has already been broken, the Ukrainians must remain vigilant. A final assault is initiated with a grenade. The men close in on the objective. Another grenade is prepared.
Давай. Може, ближче підійди.
Just as the grenade lands and is about to go off, a shell lands nearby as well.
Oh, damn. Oh my God.
Ого, блядь.
Dust is kicked up, creating another moment of momentum for the Ukrainians.
Oh, smoke cover. Oh, dust cover.
Concealed by the dust, the fighters can move to flank the Russian position more easily.
Движ Париж. Праву пристройку візьміть.
Just as the men take up positions to cover the area from multiple angles, a Russian seems to be spotted under the debris.
О, да.
Oh,
Чекай, гранату кину.
Now we are in extremely close combat.
Прямо, поняв? Отут.
After briefly suppressing the Russian with small arms fire, the fighter switches to a grenade. It seems the grenade landed perfectly, but the Ukrainian also observes something
Мені
else.
кажеться, я вже запіздував з автомата.
However, another one notes this.
Виходь,
something is still breathing.
Виходь, будеш жити.
The fighter moves closer to check the outcome of the previous engagement and confirms 1 KIA in the remains of the building.
Лежить. 200, отут.
200.
Подвал якийсь, подвал.
200 means he's not alive, right?
Мене нема, бля. Давай. Плюс, зачищаємо, 5 коротких і закріпляємося.
A basement beneath the house is also identified, where Russians could still be hiding. To clear it, a grenade is thrown down through a narrow gap amid the piles of rubble.
Oh, yeah, right there. Ooh. Little rat hole.
The soldier is visibly pleased with the outcome of the detonation.
Єбать, Все, заходимо.
That's because it seems the entrance to the basement has collapsed.
Yeah.
Це вони, сука, звідси кошмарили нас, нахуй.
And it also appears that the resistance coming from there had been giving the Ukrainians a hard time for quite some while.
Oh, yeah, there's a blurred body right there.
Все, тут чисто, дом. Надо в посадку заходьте, в посадки закріпляйтесь.
God.
After clearing the position, the Ukrainians check a last remaining ruin of a destroyed house. The remains of the building are sporadically fired upon as the soldier wearing the camera approaches it and checks the interior.
God, that was pretty close.
However, everything seems clear, and the remaining Russians have most likely fled, allowing the Ukrainians to finally emerge as the victors of this intense battle.
Чекай, бля, і гранату і ще в руках.
As a result, the men of the Tsunami Regiment were able to push into the center of the settlement and raise the Ukrainian flag as a
Wow.
symbol of victory after heavy fighting. If you appreciate the effort I put into this video, please show it with a like and a comment. You can't imagine how much this motivates me and helps me with the YouTube algorithm.
That's crazy that's just one of thousands of little battles that they have going on, right, throughout the whole Ukraine. And that's just like, it's just the one little area that has so much action, and it's constantly happening everywhere on the Eastern Front. So I can't, dude. These guys got balls of steel, man. Crazy. I don't know how old this video is. This might be a little bit older. I have to look into it, but just amazing GoPro footage that they have on here, and then there's so much more coming out, and I'm interested in looking at all of them because this is very interesting. So make sure to check out. I will leave the original video in video description. Check them out. War Leaks got some good videos, and yeah, don't forget to subscribe to them. Підпишись, це безкоштовно. Subscribe, it's free. And we'll see you guys next time. До побачення.